Just an exclamation point on the end of that song. I'm going to read you a quote by Eckhart Tolle. Acknowledging the good that you already have in your life is the foundation for all abundance. I think one of the things we have here in our world is a world in which we have great expectations. And because we have such great expectations, and many of them have come true, it's sometimes easy for us in the modern world to expect to have health, to expect to have comfort, to expect to have conveniences when we want them, to have a job, to have everything. And if it becomes too assumed, then it becomes less appreciated. And Brene Brown said, you know, the difference between entitlement and privilege is abundance, is appreciation, is recognizing that you are lucky to have whatever you have. And rather than feeling like, oh my gosh, it should be mine, I should have this all the time, this is the way it should be, I think we have a chance, by accentuating our appreciation, we have a chance to bring the joy back into life that might be getting dull. Because if we have everything, and many of us have a whole lot of stuff, and it's so easy, especially if you think about what went down our gullet a couple of days ago. This abundance that we live in right now is just phenomenal. It is phenomenal, in my opinion, that we have air conditioning. I know that doesn't seem like it, but it wasn't that long ago that there was nothing to protect us from the heat. It just was hot, and it stayed hot for months. And what did you have to do about that? Go swimming or sweat? That was it. You didn't have any choice. Now we have it assumed that, I mean, I know this is not true of anybody in this room, but we go into a building and we go, hey, it's hot in here. And it's like 73 degrees, right? Food. Our biggest problem is not getting food, it's not eating it. You know, we don't cherish the little things like tomatoes. Well, most of those tomatoes are not cherishable, but the food that we get is right here, right now, almost all the time. And I'm not talking about the people who are homeless and don't have access to it, and I'm not talking about those who, for some reason, don't have money at the moment. But in general, the world we live in, there's an abundance of food. If we had lived without it, perhaps we would remember that it is a blessing. It is a blessing to be able to eat according to your needs, and to have plenty, and to have it when you need it, and to be something that you can count on. How easy to become blasé about that. If you lived in Gaza now, you would not be blasé about food or water. It would seem precious. Sometimes I think the best example of having an abundance and knowing its preciousness comes when you don't have it is go underwater without a snorkel or a tank and see how precious air is when you come up. And for some of us that may only be like 10 seconds, but for others it might be a couple of minutes, but the same thing, once you reach the sense that this is vital and I have to have it, and I don't, it becomes the most precious thing in the world. I've been noticing, maybe y'all have noticed too, that much of the media or much of the social media anyway is geared toward this idea that you should be angry about something. Have you noticed that? That something's not right, that this is something's wrong over here. Somebody has wronged you, or somebody is so radically different from you that if they had their way, your life would be over as you have experienced it. It would be against all your principles. It would be against all your hopes and desires for your children. Nothing that you want could be possible if the other people had control. I have noticed that if you consume enough of that, then you tend to be angry much of the time. That your mind is just one step away from being ready to tell somebody off, or to say something rude to someone, or maybe even do something antisocial. That too much of that anger conversation is poisoning the minds of many people. And I think a proper antidote for that would be to stop. First of all, stop. That'd be a great one. But instead of doing that, appreciate how remarkable it is that for a long time, humanity has not killed itself off. That even though that may sound true, it hasn't been true. That basically what we have in this world is an enormous amount of cooperation. That the predominant thing in the world right now is cooperation, even though it may sound like it is going to hell in the handbasket. But if you ever went on Amazon and asked for something made in China, somebody will cooperate with you to bring it to you tomorrow. Or if you ever have inherited so much money you don't want the government to know, and you want to hide it somewhere, there are lots of people who will help you with that as well. Or people will take you to any country in the world by airplane, or they will take you by any form of transportation you're willing to pay for. There is cooperation. There's not fighting. Is the most abundant thing on the planet. We have become the most connected, we understand some things of each other extremely well. I mean, your credit card can do for you what could not be done for generations or thousands of years. You can, by just punching in a couple of numbers, have the respect of someone up enough, trust enough, that they will send it to you right away. They'll give it to you. You don't have to know them. I was thinking about this. What happened before we had a financial system like that? You go into a place and you say, I'd like some credit. They go, I don't know you. How will I ever know you? You haven't lived in this town before. You look like a stranger to me. I'm not sure I could trust you, right? But today it doesn't take any. It's not hard at all. Anything is possible in this world, and yet we don't see it because we're too busy looking at something else. If we focus on being grateful and amazed, and the other thing that should go with that is humility. If we have enough humility to realize that it is not a given, it has just happened so far for us. And this is fantastic. I mean, this is radically fantastic. That you have neighbors. You have neighbors. And there's a really good chance if you walked out your door and said hello to your neighbor would say hello back. Your neighbor would not kill you, would not try and steal your dog or your children. They're just your neighbors. in the same boat you're in, ready to help and wanting to be friendly. This is the bulk of everybody. I think ever since we put little children's faces on milk cartons, we have been poisoning our minds that somebody is out there to do us harm. And it is not so. The world is not a scary place. I mean, that's the fundamental question that Einstein is reported to have said. The big question is it a scary place or is it a safe place? Is it in your favor or is it against you? And I think if we just stopped and looked how well it's going, you would have to say it's in our favor. And even though the world is blowing up in some places, should be just as important as the world is blowing up. What's happening in the Middle East, what's happening in the Ukraine, does not occupy most of the people in the world. And it does not occupy this country at the moment, except in our own minds. And the generosity of trying to understand the other person and appreciate who they are and their hopes and dreams and wishes is the antidote for the hostility that's going on. And if we would take the practice of gratitude to a higher level, I think we would set the conditions in our own community for getting along, for being happy, that we're not all alike, that sometimes the other side is right, and maybe, just maybe, this is a beautiful world. Part of the antidote to the distress we feel as a society, I think, is gratitude. Because when you cannot appreciate how good it is, then the mind goes to look for what is wrong. It's natural. Of course, if you don't have everything you want, it looks for that. But appreciation is the foundation for happiness. It's the foundation for health, too. I don't know if you've heard those studies, but many of the studies say if you practice appreciation, your body will respond much better. Cholesterol and blood pressure and all that sort of stuff. Your mind will be quieter, you'll be more at peace. There's psychological benefits for it. There's obviously society benefits. If you appreciate your spouse or your neighbors or your friends, you know that there's a tendency for that to come back to you as well. All these reasons for practicing appreciation, but the habit of ignoring how good we have it is so prevalent today that our tendency to feel like the world is falling apart, that somehow life may not be worth living, that there's something fundamentally wrong with our society is rampant. But it is and it isn't wrong. It's working, and maybe it has some things that aren't working. But the appreciation would help us expand that which is working. Because what is working is cooperation. What is working is tolerance. What is working is kindness. What is working is generosity. And all of that is amplified when we live in a state of appreciation. And so it may seem like just a good habit, something that makes you happier, something that makes your blood pressure go down, or something that makes it easier for you to talk to somebody you're close to. But I think it sets the conditions when we do it in our personal lives for the society to begin to shift as well. And for us to find that the world we live in is a beautiful place. Your heart. needs to be fed the kindness and most beautiful thoughts. Because the heart that is bathed in fear or frustration or anger or separation begins to protect itself. And as it protects itself, it stops having its radiant power that it can send out to the world. When the heart begins to be closed off, you lose your magnetic quality in which you can think a thing and the vibration goes out and becomes so. You fortunately lose that ability. Because just think, if the carrier wave of your heart, which is such a powerful influencer, if the carrier wave of your heart was carrying out thoughts of fear, anger, and frustration, it would be a much more toxic place. But it shuts down when you think those thoughts repeatedly. And it opens up when you think thoughts of abundance, of kindness, of love, of appreciation. Your heart opens up, and your heart is a radiant communicator with the rest of the world. And so as your heart opens, so the power of your thoughts become more visible and they can manifest out there in the world. And so when your heart opens and you feed it a beautiful, creative thought, that thought goes out. And what better thought to send out than appreciation, than gratitude? Because what that is saying is more of the beauty, more of the good, more of the fulfillment, more abundance, more love. This is the vibration you send out. And thank goodness we're designed to shut down when we think the opposite. But if we want to tell the world what we want, start by opening your heart, and to do that, start by being appreciative of what you have. And then what you think will matter more. Granted, we're always creating the world we live in, even if our hearts are closed. That's just the nature of it. We are informing the universe. We're informing the people we see in front of us how we want them to respond by how we give it out. And I think basically the world that we inhabit is an echo of what we have put out. And the more we put out love and peace and abundance and kindness, etc., the more it will come back to us. Now, it may not come back to you from the person you're giving it to, but the law of cause and effect says if you yell, hello, you don't get back, shut up. Right? So put out what you would like to see more of. Put out appreciation, put out gratitude. Look more closely at the nature of things. You know that we are cooperative beings, hoping for others the same thing we're hoping for ourselves in large part. You know this is true if you drive on a 2-lane highway. At 55 miles an hour, and cars are coming at you at 55 miles an hour, do they not want you to have all of your lane just for you, and vice versa? And they don't want you to fall asleep out of boredom. They don't want you to be distracted or too angry or self-destructive. They want you to be happy. It is the nature of us. We just forget. We want everybody to succeed. Maybe on the surface we might have thoughts of other things, but really, This world is designed to cooperate. So abundance, the fulfilling of your dreams, is definitely amplified by the amount of appreciation you have for yourself, for others, for the way things are. Let us pray. Well, thank you. So grateful. All right. The practice of abundance. Let us practice now by being grateful for the abundance we have already. Feel in your heart, as best you can, gratitude. Let us start with our friends. Let us be grateful for them. And then start looking around for other things to be grateful for. Your mentor, your providers of comfort, be they medical or strangers. Let us look and see how well this world is working for us and focus on that. And where it's not, let's just bracket it. And perhaps one day we'll be grateful for that challenge as well. And now from this place of fullness and blessings, let us bless the world around us. Someone in particular, or everyone all at once. Let us give a blessing. Let there be peace on earth and goodwill to all. And so it is. Amen.